The communications team or the PR team thinks about influencers at a very macro level. So an influencer clearly is a journalist, an analyst, which there's obviously a body of people that consider themselves analysts in the tech industry. And then now these sort of social influencers, as I often refer to them. So folks that kind of grew up on the YouTube, Instagram, kind of bread and butter, and really are much more visual and kind of video and visual based than some of those other categories I mentioned. But all of them could kind of fall under the umbrella of influencers. So I tend to focus on those, the third of those groups. So the social influencer piece. And frankly, again, I know there's a lot of ways you can identify and then scale these programs. We're really still in our infancy here. I kicked that program off a couple of years ago, back in 2017. And it was really very organic. It was me identifying that there were, a dozen or so folks on YouTube, on Twitter, regularly talking about, again, Snapdragon. That's kind of often where people know Qualcomm first. They come in through the door of Snapdragon, and they were geeking out and going deep and unboxing and doing reviews on all of the smartphones that were coming out and why we should care about the new features. So I started just to kind of again, one by one, develop rapport and just follow them and talk to them and ask them questions and then eventually get on the phone with them. And so we built a little bit of a cadre of folks that now has blossomed to be bigger, but it's still very much in its infancy for us. I just feel like, partly for my own education, having done this for the first time here, after watching someone actually back at my Adidas days do this a decade ago, which is kind of my only real foundation and inspiration, I wanted to kind of take it slow, and I wanted to make sure I was doing it right and I was getting the right people who were truly fans of the brand, understood the technology, and were just kind of good-natured souls. So I wanted to kind of do it organically.
What's the social media play then, right? Is it, hey, here's a series of tweets from Qualcomm that kind of tells our side of the story, or we're going to mention in LinkedIn? Or do you just say, hey, we're not going to say anything in our own social channels because we figure the media will do the coverage for us? Like, is there a war room about how do we handle this on Facebook, for example? Or what's the strategy there?
Yeah. So yeah, we did have some good news recently, and I think everyone's really pleased just that this is, it's being settled. There's a settlement, and we've kind of come to an agreement with Apple. It's great news. And I, to respond to your question of how we deal with it on digital, specifically social, we do tend to be a brand that likes it when we allow others to speak on our behalf. And this kind of connects back to what we were saying earlier with the influencer piece. Again, whether it's a journalist, an analyst, or a social media influencer, we would rather have, in this situation, the great coverage and the positive conversation kind of speak for itself. And we did post our press release on our Twitter handle, for example, and our LinkedIn and Facebook pages, just kind of, here's the facts. It would be, I think, remiss of us to just completely ignore it altogether. But, when you read some of the coverage, of course, in the interviews, we never want to appear as if we're being arrogant or, gloating in any way, or I think we really want to keep it pretty neutral and, hey, we're happy that things have worked out for everybody. We're ready to move on and do some good business together. Because we are so technology led, and I think a lot of tech companies, frankly, are this way. We very much pride ourselves in being, the best of the best in terms of the mobile technologies that we develop, design, and then eventually deploy. I mean, something like over 95% of the people that work here are in engineering. I mean, the bulk of our staff, is engineers. So I'm the minority, right? On the business side, I'm the minority. And so I think that there is definitely a bias toward, hey, let's build the most fantastic, best in class, killer technology, and sort of that product will do the job. And marketing and PR are sort of there to round it out and amplify and kind of support. Whereas in my consumer-facing experiences, marketing was a bit more of a business driver.